The wind swept across the dry plains, kicking dust against the setting sun. The sky burned in streaks of orange and gold, the kind of light that made every shadow on the land stretch like a ghost of something long gone. Clint Harper, a solitary rancher living on the edge of the valley, was riding home when he saw the horses gathered around something in the far grass. He slowed his mare, squinting. Between the tall yellow stalks lay a figure, a woman. Her bonnet was torn, one boot missing, the hem of her dress caught on a bush. At first he thought she might be dead. The land had a way of swallowing wanderers whole. Then she moved, barely, but enough for him to see her hand clutching at her leg. "Miss!" he shouted, jumping from his saddle. Her eyes fluttered open, green and wild. "Snake," she gasped. "It bit me, and it's swelling fast." Clint knelt beside her. The skin above her ankle was already red and rising, the fang marks dark as ink. The swelling was creeping up toward her knee. She was breathing too quick. Panic had her tight in its grip. "Easy now," he said, untying his neckerchief. "Don't move it more than you have to. Name's Clint Harper. You're safe." Her voice trembled. "I was on my way to town. The horse spooked. I fell." She tried to push herself up but cried out. He pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Stay still. You keep moving. That poison'll spread faster than prairie fire." The sun bore down. Clint knew he didn't have long. The nearest doctor was a half-day's ride. He looked at the wound, then at her pale face. There was one thing he could do, one thing he'd been taught back when the frontier gave no second chances. He took a deep breath. "Miss," he said quietly, "what I'm gonna do ain't proper, but it might save your life." She nodded, tears shining. "Please, do what you must." He pulled his knife, cut the fabric around the bite to see it clearer, and tied the kerchief above her knee for a tourniquet. Then, with the grit of the plains in his soul, he did what every trail medic knew. He drew out what poison he could and spat it into the dust. He worked until the swelling slowed, until the red stopped rising. When it was done, he sat back, breathing hard. She lay still, her eyes glassy with shock and exhaustion. "Reckon you'll live," he said, his voice low. "Need to get you out of this sun." He lifted her carefully, feeling how light she was. Her head dropped against his shoulder. Even through the sweat and dust, he could smell lavender, faint but there. He set her on his horse and climbed up behind, keeping one arm around her so she wouldn't fall. They rode toward his ranch, the sound of hooves steady as a heartbeat. The sky cooled into violet. By the time they reached the gate, the stars were beginning to pierce the dusk. Inside his small cabin, he laid her on the cot by the fire. He fetched water, clean cloth, and a bottle of whiskey. She was half conscious now, whispering something he couldn't catch. "Drink this," he said, holding the cup to her lips. She sipped weakly, then met his eyes. "Thank you." "Mr. Harper," he gave a small nod. Just Clint." For a long while they said nothing. The fire crackled, throwing gold light over the wooden walls. She looked at the bandage on her leg and then at him again. "I didn't think anyone would find me. Most folks wouldn't have come this way," he said. "Lucky for you, my mare don't like the main trail." She smiled faintly, then drifted into sleep. Clint sat beside her, staring at the flames. He told himself he'd done only what was right, what any man would, but something in his chest felt strange. Maybe it was the quiet gratitude on her face, or the way the night wind outside seemed suddenly softer. Out here, people were easy to lose and harder to forget. And as he watched her breathe in the firelight, he knew the desert had just handed him a reason to stay awake till dawn.